Sloan here, News Radio 700 WLW. Welcome to the show. Tonight's the big Trump rally at U.S. Bank Arena. Pack a lunch. Traffic is going to suck because there's a concert at Riverbend. Florida-Georgia line is there. The weather's nice. Roads are going to be crowded. Just FYI. But maybe something both supporters and the multitude of protesters that'll be out there can agree on, that speed and red light cameras suck. There's a proposed constitutional amendment petition that's be circulating tonight in and around U.S. Bank Arena. Look for Chris Hicks and his team, and it says it's time to kill speed cameras on it, an Ohio constitutional amendment. Chris, welcome to the show on the QTHearingCenters.com hotline. How are you, brother?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me on this, I think, really important issue to get rid of these things once and for all in Ohio.
No question. I've been battling this for years. We got Sloan's Law. We got the bill passed. The governor signs it, the law. It just added more confusion, no solutions to this thing, to the point where New Richmond has just put up speed cameras without the permission of ODOT, by the way, on 52. And ODOT says, well, you can't put cameras on a federal road without permission. And New Richmond is saying, oh, sorry, they're continually looking for ways around this. And, when you hear it, the only way to solve the problem, I think, is to simply eliminate this nonsense, because all it is a revenue stream in these times where local budgets are tight.
Absolutely. Our Claremont County Sheriff, Steve Leahy, makes the comment that these things are about policing for profit. They don't have to do with safety. And you get these villages like New Richmond. This weekend they had River Days in New Richmond, August 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. We're going to be circulating petitions there as well. But you get these villages, and I know some big cities use these things, but these villages a lot of times are getting to the point of being blighted. They really need an economic vision, and there's just a lack of leadership. And as long as these politicians in these small villages can look to some, out-of-state speed camera company that comes to them and talks about big piles of gold they're going to get, we're going to keep seeing this. We got to take the option off the table, and that's what the petitions are about. The very beginning of the process for a constitutional amendment to get rid of them once and for all in the state of Ohio.
Well, we've tried solutions for this. My friend Bill Seitz, most recently, because they came back and said, okay, well, we're going to put these things up. If we have a cop monitored, how about that? Does that satisfy things? And Bill said, fine, but guess what? Whatever you raise in speed camera revenue, we're going to take out of your allotment from the state budget. So it's going to be a financial offset, and that upset a lot of people. But doesn't that undermine their argument that, okay, if this is not about revenue enhancement as opposed to safety, then why do you care if we cut the money from your budget?
Right, exactly. And as I jokingly say, I don't understand why New Richmond doesn't increase their income tax to be able to fund such a safety program as this without giving out tickets. What happened, I think people need to be up to speed on what's happened in the law recently in the transportation budget, took effect on July 3rd, is that these places lose $1 of their local fund, which is money that comes from the state, for every dollar in these tickets. The reality is the local fund's been cut a lot over the years, so that's a lot of these places might think they can make that up easy on the volume. The thing that's really a killer is that if somebody protests a ticket, which if you ever get one of these tickets, you should protest it. It has to go through municipal court. In Claremont County, for example, I believe the cost for something going through municipal court is $117 and change.
Right.
The village has to pay that. They can't bill that to the person that got the ticket. So that provision in the current law really makes it difficult for these things to have any legs under them, these civil penalty type deals. But ultimately, I take my hat off to Bill Seitz, fantastic stuff, constantly on these. But let's just get down to it. We got to get rid of these things once and for all, and it takes a constitutional amendment. One quick point on that. The reason why people can do these things is something called home rule in our state constitution that allows villages and municipalities and cities to basically make up laws that are not necessarily consistent with the Ohio Revised Code. So under the home rule provision, what allows them to do this. It's in the Constitution. So the only real permanent remedy for this is to get a constitutional amendment to specifically outlaw these traffic photo monitoring devices that are being used specifically for civil penalties.
Well, and I get it, Chris Hicks, too, because we know that the flow of state dollars, we send money to Columbus that we don't get back locally. Governor Kasich at the time was more interested in being president of the United States than helping Ohioans, and so he could point and go, hey, look what I did to the Ohio budget. Yeah, you did it at the expense of the local municipalities, screwed Ohioans over, but it made him look good nationally and gave him something for his campaign. And so the end result is the municipalities are left going, well, wait a minute, we just got our funding cut. We got to do something. And they looked at this easy solution because there was no cost outlay on their point. Outside companies come in, they put the cameras in at their cost, and then they split the revenues with the municipalities. And all of a sudden, hey there, guess what? We're back in black. Things are good. However, you're doing it on the backs of motorists. And you know, to your point about why not just raise taxes, well, we know that that's a difficult row for a lot of areas. We in America live among the creeds, you know, Chris, and that is, if I want something, I want someone else to pay for it. Look at the candidates, the 35 people stumping for the Democratic nomination last night. Everyone was giving stuff away with no way to pay for it whatsoever. Republicans do a fairly good job of that too, just with other things. But that really is the problem. In America, if I want something, I shouldn't have to pay for it. You should have to pay for it, and that's what happens. Is if I live in New Richmond, I know where the speed cameras are, but if I live in Anderson or Claremont County, maybe I don't. And so you're nailing out of state people or out of the municipality. But you know, let's face it, the folks in New Richmond drive other places. So if they drive in another area of town, they're going to get nailed. And so you're getting taxed, although you haven't voted for it. That's all this is just a tax for driving on the roadways. And yeah, no one wants people flying up and down the highway acting stupid. I get that, but the problem with the system is there's no recourse. They can get you for a couple miles over the speed limit, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it because it's civil.
Well, also to keep in mind, because of the home rule provision, you're not going to find these kind of cameras in typically townships and so forth, or because they have to operate under the Ohio Revised Code, and that would mean it needs to be a criminal penalty. And for a criminal penalty, they have to be able to prove you were the one driving the car. The burden of proof is on them, and you can't be asked to self-incriminate. Right. What they do with these civil penalties is the standard is lower. And therefore, they can have a assumption that you were driving the car and try to make you prove that you weren't driving the car. I say to people that I think any elected official that believes in the Constitution, that believes it's right, just, or proper for the government to try to use lower civil standards in order to put the burden of proof of that you committed the crime on the person and not on the government and the police, that person shouldn't be in office. Frankly, a foundation of our law is that you can't self-incriminate, and they have to prove you did it. And what they use these speed cameras for, and they can only do it in municipalities and villages because of the home rule provision, is they create a situation where they basically reverse that and put the onus on you to prove you weren't the one driving
exactly.
the car. That's what makes these things particularly onerous.
It's completely backwards is what it is, and I contend the wrong thing I have about it is that it's just that is like, how do you know that I'm the one driving that vehicle? Well, It doesn't really matter. We're going to nail you anyway. What if I don't pay it? Well, then we're going to go after your credit. And that's problematic in many ways. And the way to work around this is simply, you know what, no more speed limit, no more cameras, none of that nonsense. Get me the old-fashioned way, that's fine, I'll pay the ticket, but it's America. I deserve to face my accuser in court. Chris Hicks is on the show this morning. He's circulating a petition, and this is a preliminary one because it's kind of wonky how they do this. It's an Ohio constitutional amendment to get rid of speed cameras. Now, I don't care what side you're on. If you're down, you're a rabid Trump supporter, God bless you. You'll be in U.S. Bank Arena tonight, probably already queued up in line, getting patted down by armed guards right now to make sure you're safe, and that's a good thing. And you'll enjoy the rally tonight. There are many protesters who will be in and around the area voicing their concerns and dislike of President Donald Trump as well. And I say God bless you too, because that's how the system is set up. No violence, anything like that, but we all have First Amendment rights in this country. But I would appeal to both, whether you're the most violent anti-Trump person or you have Trump fever. Is to look for Chris and sign this petition. Where will you be with the petition to make this an Ohio constitutional amendment?
Well, here's what we're going to do, Scott. I got some of my buddies coming down there with me. This is not one of these well-financed, out-of-state
right.
type of things. This is grassroots Ohioans. Some of my buddies and me are going to be down there. Look for us. We're going to have the things to keep in mind is Each petition is for separate counties, so we'll have clipboards for different counties. Look for us. We're going to kind of get near the lines. And what I want to appeal to people in line also, I've been to several Trump events and love them, is that if you're in line waiting, help us. We'll give you a clipboard, and you can get the people around you to sign.
Great.
And then get it done. We can do it all together. We're going to have tons of people there. On the constitutional process, you mentioned that. This is phase one. Phase one is we need to get just 1,000 good signatures of registered Ohio voters. Then we submit it to the Attorney General, and then they approve or disapprove the ballot language that has been specified. Once that happens, then we get into the big show where you have to get 400,000 signatures in order to get it actually on the ballot. So this is step one, to get the 1,000 signatures so we can get the Attorney General to approve the ballot language so we can go forward on a much bigger play to get 400,000 signatures.
Right, so this is the preliminary part of that. So with 1,000, you probably want to get a good, I'm guessing 2,000, 2,500, maybe 3,000 or more in order for...
And if people help us, we could do that tonight.
Yeah,
we could do that tonight. And so please help us. If you see us, ask for a clipboard. You know, we'll give you one. Just got to make sure the people that sign it are from the county that clipboard is for. Hamilton, we'll have them for Hamilton, Butler, Warren, Montgomery, Claremont, and so we'll have different clipboards. But please help us out.
Yeah, you got to be a registered voter, and you have to sign the petition on what county it is in which you reside and vote.
Absolutely correct.
All right, those two things right there. Do you have success too equally? I know there are a lot of people out there that are anti-Trump people. We know this. Are they equally supportive of something like this?
You know what's funny is I'm very conservative. I'm a pro-Trump guy, but I think this is
no question.
It's people know, people that know me know that I'm a big, open, honest, clean government kind of activist person, and I find that cuts across politics. That cuts across politics. Whether you're liberal, whether you love Trump, hate Trump. This is about civil rights. This is about we the citizens. It's supposed to be government of, for, and by us. And you've got these people trying to figure out how to steal money out of our wallets because they can't come up with an economic vision better than we're going to put bogus fines on our citizens and people that drive.
Well, look at how stymied Congress is just to come up with a crappy budget deal. I mean, that right there should cement both the left and the right. The people will be screaming at the Trump supporters tonight, and the Trump supporters will be screaming back. We got a lot of things in common, and we should force them to get done. And I would say for a local issue, for an Ohio issue, this is something both the Trump and anti-Trump crowd can agree on.
Either side, if you're there tonight, as I said, I'm a pro-Trump guy, but I have friends who are not pro-Trump people, and if you're on either side, ask us for a clipboard, ask us to sign. Let's get this done, and let's really stand up for civil rights for people in Ohio, not to be abused by their local officials and these speed cameras.
No question about it, and you've got a tough task ahead of you. I the other day was talking about why you don't see third-party candidates, and this is a reason it's difficult to get on the ballot. I mean, this is to just get a constitutional amendment. You've got to get a couple thousand signatures. They have to be verified, validated, and then they have to approve the ballot language, at which point then it goes on to getting some 400,000 legal signatures here just to put this on the ballot. It's tough. Chris, you're just like a regular guy like me. How'd you get involved in this? What made you go, enough of this, I'm starting a petition, I'm going to try and change the Constitution of Ohio?
Well, I care a lot about speed cameras, Scott, but what I really care about is efficient, effective government. And too many places, right now there's not a whole lot of coverage of places like Claremont County in the press. And in too many places, we have sloppy, ineffective, backroom government. And speed cameras are a symptom of that, is that these are not things that people in these small villages want. The citizens aren't clamoring to their council people, let's get some speed cameras in here. These are things that are being done a little bit shady, a little bit in the back room, like what happened in New Richmond. ODOT twice tells you not to do it, and you still do it. It's ridiculous. So I'm very passionate about cleaning up government, particularly in Claremont County, and this is just one of the aspects. One thing I want to add to this, if River Days in New Richmond is this weekend, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, I encourage people to come out to River Days. I remember when I was a kid, I grew up in Mount Washington, Eastern Avenue, and what Eastern Avenue was like. Now if I drive through Eastern Avenue, beautiful condos, a whole different world compared to what Eastern Avenue was like. places like New Richmond, if you've ever been to New Richmond, it has the potential to be a really beautiful place if somebody had an economic vision there other than let's tax our citizens with speed cameras. It's got beautiful river views. There should be condos like on Eastern Avenue down in New Richmond as well. So I encourage people to come out to River Days and see it and know that, by the way, everybody can drive safe knowing that the speed cameras are turned off right now. At least they're not issuing tickets. I still hear people saying they see the flashes from them. But my passion, Scott, back to your original question, is about clean, effective government that's not using gimmicks, that is actually thinking ahead, that's actually trying to represent the interests of its citizens. And speed cameras is one of the most nefarious, idiotic, stupid gimmicks that governments use. And now that New Richmond has a federal lawsuit against them over these speed cameras, we'll see what it does. Their big play to get a bunch of steal money out of their citizens and visitors, I think, will end up backfiring and could well bankrupt the village of New Richmond.
Well, it's interesting. You are a self-proclaimed Trump supporter, unabashed Trump supporter, and therefore conservatives support Republican causes, which I appreciate. At the same time, you realize that Republicans are largely part and parcel in the State House responsible for this kind of nonsense and where we got to we are. So you're not afraid to fight against your own people, which I entirely respect. I think it's a good thing, and I think this is something that everyone can agree on. These cameras and red light cameras are nuts, and you know, just look what New Richmond did, illegally putting up cameras despite what the federal government said. Chris, look for Chris and his team out tonight if you're going to the Trump rally. If not, look for him obviously in New Richmond too coming up this weekend. Chris, all the best. Keep in touch, okay?
Thanks, Scott. Really appreciate you bringing attention to this issue, not just today, but over time. It's much needed and much appreciated.
Let's get it done. You're the man. Appreciate what you're doing there. Chris Hicks on the show. Sloan, back in about 3 minutes.